Tyranny busted. Tyranny busted. Tyranny busted. Tyranny
Let's get the audience what they came for, Mike.
All right, we'll give them some humor. We'll give them some taking it out of the matrix. We're going to bust some tyranny upon the mind of man. That's why this is called Tyranny Busters.
Tyranny Busters.
Yes. Now, you want to tell them what tyranny is all about and tyranny upon the mind?
Well, tyranny is a state of being. Tyranny can be on your mind. Tyranny can be trying to get on your mind, but basically it's controlling you. It's an external force that is compelling you to not do as you actually would like to do. It's inhibiting your self-determination or your self-realization. And so I think when we talk about the tyranny upon the mind, is definitely gonna, it's going to superimpose its reality upon what your actual life is. Yeah, if your life could be horrible, right? But somebody could come through and say and inflict tyranny upon you and say and make you think your life is great. Say, oh, this life is wonderful. I got everything I need. When really you're living in complete destitution. You can't survive on your own, and you don't have a good outlook about yourself. But if somebody comes through and is able to inflict tyranny upon you, they could make you believe that you are at peace with your position and your place in life. What do you think, Mike?
Well, I think you're like explaining the matrix there. That's where these people are just connected to the machine, and they're just energy source for the machine, and they have this illusion or delusion going on that life is wonderful and grand. They're not really living it. They're just like in a amoeba state. And so, but tyranny upon the mind is taking control of your mind. And the only way for somebody to do that, they do it without your awareness, because the moment you are aware that it was a tyranny on your mind, then you bust it. It's gone. And as soon as you can pull that out, then it's over. So tyranny upon the mind requires that you don't know about it. Tyranny upon your body, like chains, whips, and other instruments to control you. It's something that you're aware of, but when they do it to your mind, propaganda, stuff like that, you're not even aware of it happening. We all live with this kind of tyranny upon our mind, and the purpose of this program is to bust through that and help people come out of that matrix and free up some of their mind.
Yeah, because, what's worse than being the life source of some other entity while you yourself wither away? That's the total negative living, and in actuality is a slave. If you're doing all the work and somebody's reaping all the benefits, that's a pretty lousy existence. And it seems to be something that is growing in our society today. Let's right out the bat. What are we doing now? Man, our life is now benefiting the health insurance companies with the new Affordable Health Care Act. I guess they had to call it Affordable Health Care Act because they mandating that everybody buy it. They couldn't necessarily come out and say, hey, this is the Unaffordable Health Care Act, but we're going to mandate that everybody buy it, because they just wouldn't have been able to sell that one to the masses. But they tell everybody, hey, it's affordable, so don't worry that you have to now give up the fruits of your labor in order to purchase our product. You can be completely healthy. In fact, you could actually just philosophically be against the type of health care that we're providing for people, but we're still going to make you purchase this, and we will use your fruits in order to make our fruit punch, and you will only get the small amount that we say that you can.
Hey, I just came up with a good idea for some new legislation. This new legislation that we require that the people name the new legislation, like the healthcare tyranny bill. They call it the, what do you call it? The Healthcare Affordability Act. Well, I think the people should be able to name this legislation. We'll call it. I'd like to call it the Healthcare Tyranny Act. That's what I'd like to call it.
Well, and I think that you would be pretty accurate, because here we are. They're saying that you have to buy this, and thus you have to give us your resources, and just like if somebody has tyranny on your mind, they have to say, give us your perception, and to replace that, here is our assessment of what is reality and what is not reality. And so, I mean, what is reality, Mike?
Well, reality is delusion. This is Orwellian speak, in case you needed to know. But
that's the fourth branch of Orwellian doublespeak. Reality is delusion.
Yeah, reality is delusion. Delusion is reality. Okay, get that right.
War is peace.
Right. Now, you hear all these people talking about the Healthcare Tyranny Act. You know, I get started here like on a train going, super train, 200 miles an hour. So like when I want to move on to the fraud tax, but we guess we got to stick with this healthcare tyranny bill to start with.
Well, don't let us hold you back too much, Mike. Go ahead and give it to him, man.
Yeah. Well, okay. Let's start with the healthcare tyranny.
I'm gonna mic up our guests over here.
Mic up our guests. We want people to come in and be part of the audience here and participate, and we're going to expand on that, get more people to come week after week. But looking in the healthcare tyranny bill, I guess it's 1,000 pages or something, people are surprised that the Supreme Court of the United States is calling this a tax. And when you look in there, I just did a little search there, and Internal Revenue is mentioned 98 times. The IRS is mentioned 243 times. The word must, I just kind of keyword searched that one too, is in 100 times. Yeah, the word tax or taxable is 357 times. And the word shall, this is the best one, the word shall, 3,769 times. Now, some of those shalls apply to the government, but a lot of those shalls apply to you and everybody else there. And you know, you guys, you take a look at this and you say that, oh, this is a, you know, they're saying a Healthcare Affordability Act, and it's some package of freedom that's being, our security that's being sold to us at the expense of our freedom. So, giving up your freedom, the word shall appears 3,769 times. And so I'm talking about, this is what this whole piece of legislation is about. A false promise of security at the cost of your liberty. And that's the whole problem. We're in this trap right now. That's the whole problem that we've got with everything. You want to take a look around in society, what's going on right now with all these promises of security, the moral decay. You talk about moral decay, you wonder why we got moral decay. When people can be irresponsible in their actions, then they can do whatever they want. There's no moral consequences to them in that regard. When they have us, they can say, well, I don't have to buy health insurance because I can go, government's making these hospitals cover me no matter what. And this is the government imposing more requirements on people, taking away liberty in the process. And if you look to the root of the beginning of this problem when it comes to healthcare, you go back to a time when basically we had all kinds of different avenues of healthcare available to us, but government started licensing and regulating your healthcare. And you know, if you couldn't get a license, if you're a holistic. There you go. Holistic healthcare provider. Well, you didn't get a license. You couldn't, you know, no. You're not government sanctioned, government approved. Restrict the market. The American Medical Association, operating as a union, is going to make sure that it's going to do what's best for its members. Doesn't the devil be darned when it comes to the patients or the customers? So, looking at this healthcare tyranny bill, and why would anybody call it? Now they call it Obamacare. That's supposed to give it the pejorative context. But the real pejorative context is it's a healthcare tyranny bill. That's the truth of what it is. And the sad thing is, it's not because the legislators passed this bill that we're stuck with it, and the Supreme Court said, yay, it's okay because it's just a tax and it's somehow okay, taxable under the Constitution. No, the real travesty there is that we have this tyranny upon our mind, that we have to accept this tyranny. We have to accept this usurpation of our rights. I could have done some more keyword search on other words, but isn't that enough? The word tax or taxable in there 357 times. This is amending the Internal Revenue Code of 1986. But let's look at another thing here. This tyranny upon our mind, somehow we think that the government's entitled to take 10, 20, 30, 40% of what we produce, and we can't deduct everything we need to exist, like health care, like rent, like food, like clothing, everything that you need to exist.
Right.
But corporations can. And so corporations can zero out, so they show no taxable income because they had no profit. Well, how is it you have profit then when all you earn just goes to pay the expenses that you need to pay to exist?
It doesn't make sense.
No.
How do I? I mean, profit is supposed to be what I have left after the expenses of either existing as a company or existing as an individual. If I have nothing left, then I have zero profit.
Yeah.
So then how can I be taxed on that? And I'll tell you what, Mike, I got zero profit, man. I got zero left over when it comes time to pay for my food, pay for my transportation, pay for my clothes, pay for my hair gel, pay for my toothpaste.
Well, tell me if this is right or wrong.
Okay.
Corporation conduct their toilet paper. Can you deduct your toilet paper?
No.
Well, that's pretty crappy, don't you think?
Well, that is pretty crappy. But why are we surprised? I mean, I don't think people really are surprised, and that's why the dialogue lasted but 1 day, 2 days, and now everybody's on to Dancing with the Stars, whatever they're going to be doing, or the Muslims are going to come attack us, and you would think that people would be damn fired up about this situation, but it's no surprise because this same principle that the government owns us and can take from us whatever they want has been going on for a long time. And not just it's not even that they take what they want from us, they give to us what they want. They own it all. And they'll allow us to rent it out, or they'll allow us to lease it out, but there's always an agreement base in there. So I don't think that this is a real shock. You always talk about, I won't say you always talk about, but you sometimes bring up this situation about private companies being forced to have handicap parking spaces, and under the American Disabilities Act, or excessive.
American
Disabilities Act.
Yeah.
And so here's a private company. This was supposed to be their property, but having to live under the dictates of the government. And so how can you say that you own something? How can I say that I own my car if I'm only allowed to drive to and from a certain place? That's not my car. This is just something that's, if the government says, Mario, you can only use your car to go to work, and that's it. How can I say that I own my car? This is delusional. And if you think that you will own that's your reality, then you are delusional. And you are living in the fourth Reich of the Orwellian doublespeak.
Well, if you live deep enough into delusion, you can even be happy with it. A lot of folks are. But you're right, your example with the car. But let's go to the bigger and better example. You. If I say that you have to give me 20% of everything you own, or everything you produce, right? Then who owns your labor?
One more time.
If I tell you that you have to give me 20% of everything you produce, who owns your labor?
Well, that's a hard one. That's a hard one to say, because really, the backwards side of that is that you could say that somebody is going to give me 80% of what I produced. If you're going to take 20, really, what you're doing is saying you can have this 80. So, I can't say that I own my labor at that point in time. If I have to give you what I'm producing, then I don't own my labor.
Exactly, and it's the same thing. If I say to you, well, you can't use marijuana, then who owns your body?
Well, if I'm not allowed to make a choice as to what I want to put into my body, then I cannot say that I'm the owner of my body.
So I own your body, I own your labor, I'm your master. Now, isn't it nice that you got to vote for me, though, to choose me over some other master? Because I'm nicer than the other one, obviously. I talk some of the same things that you like. I talk minimal government, and I talk minimal taxation. That other master, he'd want 30% of what you're making.
Right.
So, how'd we get to this point?
Well, through legislation.
Aha.
Through the masses of people coming together and passing laws that would allow you or allow whatever master to come in to have access to that type of power. And what question there is okay, so say I come to this realization, there's they say, well, doesn't matter who I vote in because they're going to still exercise this power that they have. Do you think that that there's only 30% of people that vote for that master because they have come to the realization that it's useless to vote?
Well, you know what? You could say that two ways. Come to the realization that it's useless to vote. They could come to that realization at a very high level or at a very low level. They could be very lazy and apathetic about it, or they can be highly analytical about it and say that, you're not getting any difference there, so they're going to quit voting. But the others are, oh, why try? It doesn't matter. You vote, you're still going to get the same thing. So, but the bottom line is we get the same thing because we don't resist the tyranny. And the essence of the problem here that I was trying to fish out is that people, instead of asking government to do its mandate according to the Declaration of Independence, which is to secure our rights, we ask government to provide something for us. And usually it's some sort of sense of security. Give me security.
Yes.
And you go way back when, the last 100 years certainly was power-packed with one piece of security after another, promised security at the expense of liberty, until that, we're very well-fed slaves on the plantation, but the plantation is drying up. There's a famine coming to the plantation, and it's because many of the dependent slaves are over there lounging in front of their propaganda tube, and they're not producing. They're just reaching their hand out to get what the master has taken from the producers to give to them, and the producers are getting weaker and sicker in the process, and they're not able to produce enough to cover the entire slave population. So this game is coming just to a fruition, the fruition that always comes when you give up liberty for security. It just gets worse and worse and worse.
Yeah, and his history tells us that that's the case. And so, to bring that into my own subjective reality and conversations that I've had recently, I was talking to some of my family, and we're discussing the Rome, and they're saying how Rome was so bad because they had these coliseums and people would be in there and people were entertained by the torture of the citizens. And I said, well, what's the difference, man? I turn on cops and I'm seeing people getting tased for doing absolutely nothing wrong. And they said, well, that's not really true. And I said, okay, well, I've seen on cops people get tased. A cop will come up to somebody. The person has not been suspected of doing any crime, right? The cop, if a cop just wants to come up and just talk to me, I asked my family. I said, do I have the right to just not talk to them, or to just keep on my way? And they said, well, no, because you have to stop and talk to the cop. And I said, so if I just keep walking away, the cop has a right to tase me. And they said, well, why would you want to not talk to the police officer? So I said, okay, you guys you obviously have granted all the authority to the police officer, right? Whereas I thought that cops were supposed to be there if a crime was committed to apprehend a suspect, right? But they shouldn't just be able to come up and talk to me just to question me. Right now in New York, they got this stop and frisk thing. You don't have to be accused of anything. They can just come up to you, stop you, and frisk you. So I said, whatever, you guys have granted all the power to the police officers. Well, what do you think about the fire department being able to come into my business and look for a fire extinguisher? And my family, she says, well, of course they should be able to do that. People are might be using outlets more than is safe to do. And there might be a cause of fire, and so they say, Mario, this is not going to be doing anything good for your political agenda. And I said, well, see, this is the problem here, because what I'm trying to ask y'all is, what is the purpose of government, right? What is the purpose of the fire station? Right? Is the purpose of the fire station to come and put out fires when they happen and to investigate if there was negligency that has caused damage to somebody's property? Or is the purpose of the fire department to just come and into my personal place of business, and we can make that extension to my personal place of residence just as easily, and start to look for a pre-crime? Is there something that might cause some damage to somebody, and therefore they are usurping my liberty and my property, my right to have property, by just coming in and snooping around wherever they like without my permission.
Yeah, well, I think the people you're talking to, they're going, well, it's for security, and then they'll go, we're safer that way because they can prevent fires, and then they'll go. But the thing is that they don't realize that it comes at the expense of liberty.
They don't,
and
they don't even know it. I can't even believe that people who will take that position understand what liberty is.
Well, and then what they don't understand, they got this good purpose, but they don't understand that the loss of liberty gives you the loss of control over your person and your property. And that makes the state the owner of that stuff. So the next step is, they go one step further and they can fine you. And of course, it's not just this one isolated instance where you have 50 of these instances put together, and you will have them put together. Then you can't sustain the burden of this so-called security package that they're providing for you. Totally crushed, no security and no liberty in the process, and that's where it inevitably ends up. And your point about what's the purpose of government, is it to secure our rights, or is it to bring us security? And they're a world apart. If it's to bring us security, the ultimate security is a 4x8 jail cell and the freedom that goes with that,
and a straitjacket.
That's it. If you resist this tyranny, because you're giving them the government gun, the power to destroy you. If you pass the seatbelt law and say everybody has to wear a seatbelt, And yeah, we'll hear stories all the time where these people, even with all these seatbelt laws, you'll hear stories where people were killed because they didn't have their seatbelt on. But in essence, you're saying go ahead and kill me if I don't wear my seatbelt, because if let's just say I'm the kind of guy just stubborn and just feel like I'm self-determined and want to control my own life, and I say, well, you know what, I'm not putting a seatbelt on, and well, guess what? If a cop tries to pull me over because I don't have a seatbelt on, I'm not going to pull over. And then if he pulls me over and rams me into the side of the road and wants me to get out of the car, I'm not going to get out of the car. And then he's going to pull out that gun ultimately, put it up to my head, and I'll say, I'm not getting out. And he can pull the trigger, and guess what? He just did his duty. He was just trying to save my life.
And if folks don't think that's reality, they are delusional. And if they don't think that this is where it's going to end up, this is the thing, is that people are so naive. They think my master loves me so much and he's never going to exercise that. What did Mitt Romney say about Barack Obama? Oh, yeah, we could give him the power of the National Defense Authorization Act. He would never use it. No, he's a good master. I mean, I'll sit up here and talk bad about him all day, but he's a great master. He would never do that. And look at what's happening in France right now. Micah got this little article right here. On Sunday, a new law went into effect mandating all citizens install a breathalyzer device on their cars. Okay, a poll released over the weekend reveals that nearly 60% of the respondents have yet to install the device. If they don't obey the new rule, by November 1st, citizens will face a fine of €11 or $14. So it's only $14, Mike.
Hey,
this year.
The rich people could pay that, Mario.
This year, just like the mandated health insurance. How much is it the first time? $95 for the first year. Oh, that's nothing, man. That's not much. What are you guys bickering about? What's the next year? $1,500. Oh, well, hey, turning the heat up on the frog. It's getting a little warm in here. What's the next year? $2,900. Dan, the frog's boiling now. Who can afford to pay $2,900? If they could afford to pay $2,900, they would have had insurance in the first place.
Now, did you do your homework and check out that religion that we can join and it's exempt from this healthcare tyranny bill? Did you?
I've looked into some. Apparently, the Amish can do it. If you're Native American, then
I'm a 16th.
16th?
Yeah, does that count?
Well, I don't know. I have to do some more homework into there. But there are some religions, and that are exempt. I don't know if in France any of the religions are exempt from installing breathalyzer. But here's the situation, right?
Hey, Mario, I don't know what your problem is. It's just make people safer.
It's just to make people safe, man.
Yeah.
I mean, now we don't have to worry about people getting drunk and driving.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful thing, right?
Hey, what if they start the car and then they start drinking?
Oh, great, Mike.
What are you going to do then?
Great, Mike. You just had to go and ruin France's whole scheme here, man.
Oh, man.
Or what if they got their girlfriend who is, diabetic, can't drink, and she just, blows in the breathalyzer.
Hey, Ma, are you trying to kill all these private industries that's making money off of this government program?
Oh, so here we start on the threshold of fascism, the merger of corporations and government. Where the folks who are cheering on this health mandate, they don't want to say this, man. They don't want to say that this is the direction and we're heading in. They like to think, oh, we are just doing good. We have these great intentions. We're just going to get everybody healthy. And this is the delusion that they call reality.
What, don't you think it's a good... What do you think? What right do you... Were you elected? What right do you have to say that you know what's best for you and your family? You weren't elected, were you?
Well, here is... Okay, so now we go into one of our audience. They sent us an email, and I really appreciate, the feedback that we get. This person, I won't say their name, he says... Yeah, we're on. We're good.
Okay.
He says, all this stuff about programming and matrices is really, really ignorant. We need to come together as a society and political culture to make a better nation. For example, a mandate to wear seatbelts transcends personal liberty. Similarly, there is no right to not wear seatbelts, and there should be no right to avoid medical insurance. Mike and Mario are wasting time using such terms as tyranny. You and the country would be better off if you would just join in using government instead of trying to promote anarchy. And so I am trying to be a part of the government process here. Mike, you were running for Congress, man. How much effort did we put inside of... I didn't get elected, right? Yeah. But I still have a right to voice my opinion, and I still have a right to try and be represented and try to have a position to be represented. Do I not?
Yeah, and you know what? I like these comments when these people make. If you subscribe to a government that protects your liberties and your rights instead of violating them, then they want to call you anarchist. And nothing could be further from the truth. You got totalitarian governments, the tyrannical governments, that say whatever the legislators or the Supreme Court says, or 51% of the people say, then you got to obey that, and they control you, and that's the end of the story. Or you got those people that say no government, and the rule of the law of the jungle applies, but people are going to be nice in the jungle when there's no government. And then people like us that are saying that we need government for one purpose, and that is to secure our rights from those that violate us. But then government says it can violate us for our security. It can take our freedom for our security. Now, I don't want to buy health insurance, but I don't want to pay crazy fees for the health care coverage. Government has created the crazy fees for the crazy cost. And now they want to combine and mandate that I have to buy coverage to cover these crazy costs that they created because they destroyed a real free market in the healthcare industry. But not only that, they've got the country sick in the sense that socialism makes us sick. It makes half the population or more dependent, depraved, indolent, wasting away, rotting away from atrophy of their muscles and their brain power, and breaks the back of the other people that are carrying the load and the freight, and makes us all dependents in the process by violating our liberty. Increase our liberty back to the point where people could do what they wanted. They had a free market in healthcare. They could contract with the doctors and let the market expand in the number of doctors, and let people pay their own way, not be dependent, not be falling apart because they're carrying too much load or because they're just atrophying on the couch. Get a healthier society this way because, if we all have to survive and pay a price for it, we get stronger and healthier.
Well, that's the definition of work. It builds character, it builds muscle. So, to further go into this, government that we're trying to utilize, well, I wanted to bring a couple bills that are in Congress right now and just throw them against you, Mike. See what you thought. Right? We got the House Joint Resolution 107. This is brought forth by Mr. Franks of Arizona, and apparently he's afraid that his right as a parent is going to be no longer here very shortly. I wonder why. But the bill reads, the liberty of parents to direct the education of their children is a fundamental right. Section 2. Neither the United States or any state shall infringe upon this right without demonstrating that its governmental interest as applied to the person is of the highest order and not otherwise served. Section 3. No treaty may be adopted, nor shall any source of international law be employed to supersede, modify, interpret, or apply to the rights guaranteed by this article. So, my first thing is the liberty of parents to direct the education of their children is a fundamental right. I'm for that. I say, yeah, that is absolutely a fundamental right. But here's the second part. It says that this should not be infringed upon this right without demonstrating that its governmental interest as applied to the person is of the highest order and not otherwise served.
Yeah, so it basically is saying if we can justify, us controllers can justify violating your rights, then it's okay. Then it's okay to violate your rights. And they're very good at their justifying of violating your rights. They are getting away from the idea that they're supposed to secure our rights, not violate them, not have some ultimate highest order mandate excuse to violate our rights.
Right.
Now, you mentioned that. I'm going to just divert off to something else here. And he's looking for security
Yes.
in the sense that, first off, we should be able to have the security that we need. If somebody violates us, it should be open doors to go to the courts and say, we've been violated, we want retribution here. But people in government, people in politics, everywhere I look, with a rare exception here and there, they're all controllers. They all think that they got a better scheme. This guy's thinking he's got a better scheme. But I was, somebody's trying to get me to endorse him for city council out here in Santee. And off the website I read, the city should not court any businesses for incorporation into the community. Head shops and sexually explicit businesses have no business in our city. When elected to serve as city council member, I'll not mention the name, will oppose the current blanket invitation to unseemly businesses and promote companies that will improve the lives of Santee residents.
Wow.
So she's going to decide what's going to improve our lives.
Wow.
And these unseemly businesses, no, we're not going to have those. So here's a controller. Here's somebody who wants to give up liberty and freedom, okay, under this guise of, I'm going to bring you some security. And this is what we got at every level of government. And this is why we're just little chains on the plantation, only going to do what our master, and it's like, support me, endorse me. And
Wow.
this is the same kind of person that's the war on drugs.
Wow.
I got to punish these people for using drugs and et cetera, et cetera. But my rights don't violate my rights. But it's okay. These people don't have a right to use drugs. No. Why do they have a right to use Jack Daniels if they don't have a right to use marijuana?
Well, apparently they don't even have a right to express their sexuality in the way that they see fit as adults.
As adults.
I mean, how is that even providing security, man?
It's not.
That is not. That is just straight up controlling, social engineering, and indicative to me of sociopathic tendencies.
Well, yeah, the other masters weren't doing a good job. So if I'm the master, I'll do a better job, see? That's the routine here. And, right into this vein, you might have something else to cover there, but I want to cover something. There's websites out there say, here, these are the freedom candidates. Go support these freedom candidates.
Right.
And
Did you see me on that list?
No, I didn't see on that list. But then, somebody else does the choosing and the picking because they know they're going to give you the security, okay?
Right.
Don't use your freedom to go check out people yourself. Don't use your freedom to come out of the matrix and be able to read what somebody's saying and ask yourself the question, is this person a liberator or a controller? Is this person an abolitionist or a prohibitionist? Don't learn this skill for yourself. Come to my group. I'll tell you who the liberty candidates are. So I went to the group randomly, pulled out two candidates. One of them, I have to confess, the look on the face was that of a controller. So I said, let's go read his stuff. And he had some good stuff there because, these guys...
That might be hate speech, Mike. We might want to tone it down a little bit, man.
I hate speech. Is that a crime?
I don't know. Let me look that up here while you talk.
I hope it's not a thought crime. Anyway, so, if these guys are kind of Ron Paul supporters, so they're going to say some of the right things. But then if you want to look to see what kind of personality they have, read their stuff. He puts up, and this is only part of it, I just pulled this comment from one of your liberty candidates. That's what I wrote. On energy, this is what the guy says. We need to take advantage of every path available to us. We, us, okay? Nothing to do with free market. That's about controlling. That's about collectivism. We need to take advantage, all right? And then he goes on to say, I do support working to develop renewable energy sources. He's talking that the government should develop energy resources, renewable. We need to research ways in which, then da 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 da. So he's talking about government security, providing security, instead of just saying, we need to increase freedom in the area of energy. Things like, I'm always talking about legalizing hemp, legalizing competition, not just legalizing, not bringing in more oil, but legalizing competition
And Mike,
to oil.
man, when you talk about legalizing hemp, man, and it actually being able to produce diesel fuel, you are not lying, man. There are cars that have ran original cars that run off of hemp biodiesel fuel. You're not just making this up, man. I mean, if anybody is living in a state of delusion where they don't think that this is true, just Google it, man, because this is real.
And if they don't Google it, then they're part of the problem, because if they doubt it, don't just discount it, Google it. Whenever I hear something somebody's putting out, it doesn't seem right. Somebody said that $350 an ounce is the cost to get gold out of the ground. Well, I Googled that because that didn't seem right. And what I came up with in several locations is they got to get the price to profit on pulling gold out of the ground now is $1,500 an ounce. Gold has to sell for that for them to continue to pull gold out at the rate that they're pulling it out.
Makes
for it
sense
to
to
be
me.
profitable. So, but then going into this other person really sounded like a good liberty candidate.
All right.
And then,
yeah, man.
And you dig into this fraud tax. They call it the fair tax, and it's just all this stuff. That's why I said that people need to name these things. The fraud tax, it's 30% sales tax on everything that you buy. They say new, not used, but it's also 30% on rent. From what I read, 30% on paying rent,
man.
30% on all services, roofers, dentists, plumbers, doctors. 30%.
Maybe this will inspire people to be homeless.
I don't know what the consequences. See, they never look at the law of unintended consequences, and there's a lot of them on this, and you could dig into this for eternity. But some of them are very obvious, and one of them would be that there's 5 states that don't have a sales tax now. If the feds impose this, it's the states that are responsible for collecting it. So guess what? They now have this sales tax. And why would they collect revenue for the feds and not collect some for themselves at the same time? The states in like California,
because they're a good master.
Yeah, they're better master. And this is like the fraud tax. These people are calling. This is somebody looking for security, not liberty. Somebody looking for liberty would say, look, we need to get rid of all these false programs of security, eliminate them, weed them out, get them down to zero, wean people off of them, don't throw them in the street starving to death, because it's kind of wrong that you steal from people all their life and then say, hey, sorry, there ain't no Social Security money. But that's what they're going to be doing if they don't solve this problem. But this supply another means to suck out of the productive section of society gigantic sums to feed the socialist machine. And we'll just call it the fair tax.
I mean, isn't that what set Ron Paul apart from them, man? Is that when he came in and he said, let's abolish the IRS, he didn't say, let's set it up with something else.
Right.
He said, what are you going to put in its place? He said, nothing. Let's just get rid of it.
Now, some people are going to say he said, well, maybe something like the fair tax. It be a step in the right direction. But he's not coming out championing the fair tax. He said maybe something like that is a step in the right direction. I don't think he's analyzed it real well, but he's talking about first and foremost eliminating all these unconstitutional agencies and bringing them down.
Right.
So.
Well, and so this is something I discussed with you before, Mike, and I thought that it challenged this question of security and liberty. 5 brought forth by a Mr. Ribble that says that no person shall be elected as a representative more than 6 times, and that no person shall be elected or appointed as a senator more than twice. So what's the 12 years that you have a limit to how long you can be in the Congress? So to me, this is a kind of a blurry line here, right? Because if we have liberty, shouldn't we then be able to have the choice to continually elect the same people into this office? And if that right is infringed upon, under the idea that if people stay in there, they become stagnant, so getting them out will have security. You know what I mean? If we kick them out, they won't be able to be stagnant. They won't be able to just become career politicians, and that's a good thing. So we should take away people's liberty of being able to elect whoever they want.
Well, I could say a ton of stuff on that.
All right, I know you can.
Get ready to let the dominoes fall here. Okay? First off, that's just in form, not in substance. Okay, if you actually think you got a choice, a freedom of choice, to pick who your representative is, you're definitely deep in the matrix. Okay, because that's already established for you. Number one, they established that with how they gerrymander districts. Number two, they also, if they have any understanding of how propaganda and tyranny upon the mind works, the Congress critters use your taxpayer dollars to tell you how good they are during the election cycle by mailing out mailers.
So
and everything.
$250,000 mailing?
I don't know exactly how much. It's quite a bit. So they're saying, look how good I am. They get money from their cronies that they're doing favors for to fill their coffers up so they can go around telling you how good they are. And the media industrial complex, who likes to support status quo because they're actually a branch of the bankster gangsters, always have these guys on and say, look, Congressman such and such, he did this. Look how nice this is, and look how great this is. What do you think about this, Congressman, this and that? And so these people got the same complex that the people in Stalin's Russia have. They don't really have a choice. They got this. This is who they're. This is all they know. This is all they think. It's the same thing as if you're on trial and the prosecutor only gets to give the evidence and you don't get to put any other evidence out there. People are going to side with the prosecutor all the time. That's a choice in form only, not in substance whatsoever. And what inalienable right do you have to pick somebody that's going to be master over me? You say, oh, people got a right to choose this guy. Why does 51% of the people have a right to continue somebody's mastership over me, the minority? That's not a right. Holding a position in government's a created thing. It's not an inalienable right. So why is it people think they got a right to decide who the master is going to be? And because that's who these guys are. And would you really care? Would you say, oh, my rights violated, if all the guy could do while he was in office, guy or gal, is write legislation that secured our rights, not violated our rights? You care because they can write legislation to violate our rights, and you think this guy is going to be not as bad as that guy. And none of this is freedom. None of this is. It's all about you're hoping for security. You're hoping for control. This is less freedom for you. If these guys have term limited out, then there's less damage they can do to your freedom, because that's what they're doing right now.
So you would be in favor of this term limit?
So was Thomas Jefferson.
Do you think this is a strict enough term limit here?
Well, I think term limits maybe 6 years for the House, and maybe the same 6 years for the Senate.
Well, I think that there would be a positive impact on that too. I think that's if there was a higher rate of turnover and not this incumbency that we're faced, I think that might compel people to be a little bit more active. It might seem a little more exciting. I know maybe that's a superficial way to take a look at it, but I think there would be a lot of productive, a lot of benefits to having term limits, and I do agree with you, and I'm going to have to really think about this idea of, the difference between created governments and inalienable rights. These if something's created, then how can that land inside of my my inalienable rights? So that's House Joint Resolution 105. We should all be paying close attention to that, and right into Duncan Hunter. Speaking of Duncan, he's got a bill right now too, that he's made up, and this is what's this? House Resolution 881. Okay, and what this does here is to amend Title III of the Americans with Disabilities Act. And what this is trying to do, it says that a state or federal court shall not have jurisdiction in a civil action that a plaintiff commences under this paragraph. Before filing a complaint alleging a violation of this title or such a state law, the plaintiff provides the defendant with a written notice of the alleged violation by registered mail. The written notice identifies the facts that constitute the alleged violation, including the location or the date on which the alleged violation occurred. A remedial period of 90 days elapses after the date on which the plaintiff provides the written notice. The written notice informs the defendant that the plaintiff is barred from filing the complaint until the end of the remedial period. Basically what this is saying is that Duncan Hunter has come out and said that he wants to protect businesses against lawsuits that are spawning from the ADA, and that people who are going to file lawsuits or so as to determine the behavior of businesses have to give that business 90-day notice. If I have a disability and somebody is not going through what the American Disabilities Act says is necessary for them to appease me, then I have to give them a 90-day notice. And so the UT had an article here that was saying, Duncan's such a bad guy. He wants to have people have to give a day notice. Shouldn't business owners just be smart enough to read ADA? Here's from the article of the UT. For 2 decades, free information about the ADA has been available to business owners, including the easy read ADA guide for small business. Everyone about the ADA. So why is it that barriers still exist? Studies show that the real reason the most offending businesses are not in compliance with the ADA is that they don't spend money removing access barriers, even when offered assistance to do so. Apparently, they pay money to assist you to bend to the will of the Disabilities Act. Duncan Hunt's people is to send notice to the confused business owners before a lawsuit can be filed. We're aware that once the notice is received, most businesses will promptly fix the problem, is what Duncan Hunter. But the short of it here is, Mike, you got the one side saying the American Disabilities Act is absolutely right on, that every business has to comply with it, that they should have to have ramps for every person with disabilities, they should have to have places outside their business so that they can come up and park, that their property is really their property, that their property is simply rented to them, and that they have to comply with it. And so here comes Mr. Conservative Duncan Hunter. He's saying, hey, well, that's bogus, man. Everybody should, have a right to their property. And to protect this right to the property, I'm demanding that I have to have a 90-day notice before somebody can sue me for the American Disabilities Act. But doesn't he fall short there, Mike? Doesn't he fall short when he doesn't come out and say, you know what? The American Disabilities Act is bogus. People should have the right to private property, and it shouldn't be dictated to whether or not they get a 90-day notice before they comply with this act. It's just bogus. If people want to open up doors, people with handicaps, and be made accessible, then that's their own business. Isn't he falling short there?
Well, man, you get a little fired up there, Mario.
Well, man, I'm telling you, man. I'm feeding off of you, Mike.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
And I know you got some beef with Duncan, so I didn't want to, I don't want to stir it up. But stir it up, man. Tell me what's real.
It's not really a good thing to say things negative about someone who is lacking the ammunition to fight back. So,
And you're talking about Duncan Hunter there, right?
yes, that's right.
Because they can be confused
Yeah.
in this article.
Yeah. So, but yeah, the Americans with Disabilities Act. You know, all these nice sounding names. There's a tyranny description for that one, but I haven't thought of it yet. The Americans with Disability Tyranny Act upon Americans who own private property.
Wow.
There you go.
Well, that's part of the Tyranny Busters thing here, right? Is that
Yeah.
we are breaking out of the Orwellian code of conduct here, and we're calling it as it is.
Right.
And that's what it's all about.
Now, you know, people that have disabilities obviously have a harder time in life than people that don't. But does that mean that we can mandate and dictate and tell other folks what to do with the property, and that they have to lose ownership rights and they have to lose their inalienable rights because someone else has a harder time? You know, we even rob from those people, what you said earlier, the congeniality of helping people that maybe have disabilities. You know, the idea of, you know, if you're a business owner and customers are coming and you see them out there, they got a wheelchair, and you're the owner of business, and you tell your busboy for your restaurant or whatnot, or your waitress, would you go out there and help that man into the restaurant?
Right.
And so, you know, got this human connection, but now, you know what, he's got special ramps and he's got his all things, so we don't have to worry about him, no problem there. We already had to give him a special parking spot. And so, and the people I see with these special parking spots, there's Americans with Disabilities Act. There's this guy I know, millionaire. You know, he's got a little back problem and stuff like that. Walking isn't the best. But he gets this handicap placard and brand new Jeep, and he drives in, and he just drives in the regular spot. And I tell him, I say, no, your spot's over there. Yours is the blue spot over there, you know, with the thing in it. That's your spot's reserved for you. He gets mad at me when I say that. But this idea, and you know, people like this guy have these placards, and this is an example. They give people that forced to give up their freedom, and really the security doesn't come out of it. These people get in and get these spots, and then people that are really in tough shape, they have to park way back somewhere, because these. And then there's other people that you may get a mother who's got two small children in tow and struggling and working and trying to do everything, can pay the freight, and there's open spaces there, but she can't take it. She's got to go way back and have the, you know, this burden of trying to get into the store with these kids and manage the kids and get her food and everything else, and go this long distance to park. So this doesn't work. It violates people's rights. And these guys go around with this lawsuit. Oh, you have to send the letter first. Well, they'll send the letter, and then they'll go out and say, well, you know, you didn't cut down your countertop the way I said in the letter, and so I'm going to sue you now. And so it's like, here's a tiny bit of crumbs. After they've taken the food off your table, they give you kind of bit of crumbs back and say, look, see how good I am as your representative? I helped you so much here.
I guess that's why you can be called a conservative. Hey, look it, we kept some crumbs for you, didn't we? We didn't take it all, man. We kept some of it here for you.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I don't want to master, and point blank, man. And if that's people's idea of using government, if me saying I don't want to master, is people are going to take that as me preaching anarchy, well, I feel like I'm going to have a really hard time feeling like I can actually come together with them and institute the type of government, any form of government. It's going to be really difficult. And
you know, before we close up, so how do we get people to start looking at things in the vein of security or freedom? There, on a Tea Party site today, there was discussions about California passing legislation that a child could have more than two parents. And they were all up in arms, and they want to stop this, call up their assemblyman and senator or whatever, and stop this. And I respond back, I say, you guys are screaming for some more security. I don't understand. You should have more freedom on this issue. Why shouldn't a kid be able to have more than two parents? Why can't, and this is really legal guardianship that they're talking about, why can't I make my daughter's aunt and uncle parents as well, have legal guardianship as well. Why can't I make that, embody that into the law? Why can't we increase freedom in this area instead of restricting freedom in this area? Why are you screaming for more security here and more restrictions on what we can do? They think they're doing it so that the child that has two mommies or two daddies somehow is going to be protected on this thing. But what they do is they violate all of us in our expanding our liberties or providing and guaranteeing our liberties.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the ways we could do this to break through this, is to find different ways to say security and liberty. Because really you're giving up your choice in order for safety. And
well, that's a good point. You still should have the choice of putting the seatbelt on or not.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you're giving up the seatbelt if you don't have the law.
Right.
And you know what? Idiots give up the seatbelt whether there's a law or there's not a law, when they should have the seatbelt on. And then they might put the seatbelt on when they're going 15, 20 miles an hour and the seatbelt's not going to be any good. So it doesn't make us any safer, and that's the bottom line.
Yeah, well, a lot of it is actually spawned from people's own insecurity. That's why they want security, is because they have insecurity, right? And one of the things, the funniest time I think I had a conversation is this guy was saying, "Oh yeah, motorcycles, you got to wear a helmet. It's mandated. You must wear a helmet." And he was saying, "Well, only a fool would not wear a helmet, all right?" And this guy who I was talking with, I'm not trying to diss him or anything, but he didn't really seem like he was getting too much romance in his life. He kind of seemed like he was kind of secluded, is what I'm saying. And I said, "Well, man, you're totally missing the point here, man. This guy doesn't want to wear a helmet because he looks like a badass riding down the street, man. He doesn't got a helmet on. You know how much action that guy's getting?" And so
you're saying it increased his freedom.
It increases his options.
Yeah, that's right. That's freedom. That's options. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
And that's what we want, man. Don't limit other people's life because of your own insecurities, man. Just be free and let people, if they're not doing anything to harm you, man, don't your safety onto them, because they might have good reason.
You know how to tell if we live in a free society or not?
How's that?
Is when people ask you, "Is it legal to do this?"
That's right. All right, well, there you go. Another episode of Liberty Busters. I'm glad y'all joined us.
Not Liberty Busters.
Tyranny Busters. I'm getting sucked into the Orwellian speak, man.
Yeah.
But luckily, I got Mike over here to slap me out of it. And,
tyranny bastard. Tyranny bastard. Tyranny bastard. Tyranny bastard. 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 Tyranny, bastard, 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 bastard.